Hi everyone, Brit here. Excited to have you all here for today's discussion of Brit's Blueprint. And today we're going to be covering legs. So to start off, I get asked a lot about what I like to do for legs. I've got a pretty good set of wheels. And so we're going to cover a couple different thoughts between intensity, volume, and to start off here, you can see we've got two pictures. This one is Mr. Olympia, 8-time Olympia, Mr. Lee Haney, with his saying, "Stimulate, not annihilate." Over on this side, we have Dorian Yates, who I actually had the opportunity to train with back in 2019. And he was all about annihilation and heavy intensity for his workouts. So Dorian liked to only do legs once per week because he was causing that much fatigue and annihilating the muscle that much that really that's all that his body, muscles, and central nervous system could handle. Whereas Mr. Lee Haney didn't have quite as much intensity, and so he had a little bit more volume or a little more frequency in his lifting, maybe being able to hit legs twice per week. But before we dive into that, I'm just going to go over the two kind of leg days I like to switch between. And typically I run these leg days for anywhere from 3 to 6 months at a time, and then I'll kind of switch it up. So leg day number one right here. I'm going to start off with a heavy movement with squats. Now with squats, I take a little bit more of warm up. It can take me up to 3, maybe even 4 sets to warm up to my working weight that's around 400 pounds or so. So I like to start off with that heavy movement squats. Then we'll go into leg extension. Now for leg extension, I do like to follow Dorian's mindset of using 1 to 2 warm-up sets. Now the way to figure that is, if you know that you're going to lift 200 pounds for your working weight for 10 to 15 reps, then your first working set is going to be half of that. So you'll be at 100 pounds. Or sorry, your first warm-up set, not working set. Your first warm-up set will be 50% of your working weight, so 100 pounds. Now, the second warm-up will be at 70%. So that would be 150, 160 pounds, somewhere in there. And then you go on to do your final set or final 2 sets of the 200 pounds for 12 or 10 to 15 reps, hitting failure by that last rep. Dorian did like to only use 1 working set. I also had the opportunity to train with Chris Cormier, and he liked to use more of the 2 working set approach, which I find to be very beneficial, especially if you're lifting alone. But we'll dive into that a little bit more later as well. So after leg extension, we'll go on to a seated hamstring curl. If you don't have a seated hamstring curl, you can sub out for a lying hamstring curl. Again, following the same method, using 1 to 2 warm-up sets, however what your body feels the need for. Usually at the beginning of the workout, I start off using both warm-up sets. But as I get a little more fatigued and closer to the end of the workout, I might only do 1 warm-up set at that 70% range. So after a seated hamstring curl, I like to go to another heavy movement of leg press. My legs are pretty well smoked at this point, and I can load up a lot of weight on the leg press. So if it's at the beginning of the workout, that's 10 plus plates on each side. Leg press is a good workout or a good exercise to choose. Doesn't have a whole ton of risk, not as much risk as squats might have. So that's why I'm fine putting it here as the 4th exercise in my workout. My legs are already pretty fatigued, but I'm also in a very safe position to still lift heavy weight. After that, I'll usually finish off hamstrings with a lying hamstring curl. Maybe sometimes I'll do a type of deadlift, either stiff leg or Romanian, but this is usually the setup I like for this leg day. So we go squats, leg extension, seated hamstring curl, leg press, lying hamstring, and then finish off the day with calf. Now, for leg day number 2 over here, erase this really quick. For leg day number 2, it's set up a little bit more in a pre-exhaust fashion. And so this is actually a little bit more to how Dorian taught me. So starting off with leg extension, again doing 1 to 2 warm-up sets at 50 and 70% respectively, and then either 1 or 2 working sets to failure. Then we'll go on, we'll prime the hamstrings and do a seated hamstring curl. After that, we'll go on to our heavy movements, starting off with leg press. After leg press, we'll go to hack squat. If you don't have a hack squat, sub in some other squat variation. I mean, there's so many squat machines out there now. You could use a pendulum squat, you could use a pit shark, a Roger squat machine, whatever you have at your disposal. You could do Smith machine squats. Dorian used those a lot. Again, a little bit more of a safety factor because he did have a hip injury. Or you could do free weight barbell. It's really up to you. But I do like there to be a squatting movement after leg press. And then finally here, I'll pick one of these 3 and usually keep it in the program for up to 12 weeks. And that would either be a Romanian deadlift, a stiff leg deadlift, or a walking lunge. All sorts of variations with those. You can use Smith machines, you can use dumbbells, you can use barbells. So it's kind of shooter's preference on that. Whatever you can be consistent with, whatever you feel connected with, and whatever you enjoy the most. And then again, we'll finish off with calf there. So, talking about the sets and reps schemes now. There's good science out there that shows that within a given week, you usually want anywhere from 10 up to 20 working sets per muscle group. So, if we look at this, from squat, leg extension, hamstring curl, leg press, and lying hamstring, that's 5 exercises. So if we do 2 working sets of each of those, there's our 10 working sets for the week. Same goes on this side. We have leg extension, seated hamstring, leg press, hack squat, and then deadlift or lunge variation. 5 exercises again. If you do 2 working sets, there's your 10 again. I usually don't go beyond that. One, because I like to keep the weight up. If I did more working sets, if I did 3 working sets per muscle group, that last set would be pretty fatigued. I probably wouldn't hit my rep range, and I think it would take me longer to recover. And as far as reps go, I like to at least get 10. Dorian liked the 12 to 15 range for anything below the waist. You have a lot of muscles down there, a lot of power, so I find that it can take more of a beating. And that 12 to 15 range is usually a pretty good stimulus. So one reason that I lean more towards the Dorian style of training of 1 leg day per week versus trying to fit 2 leg days in per week is just overall central nervous fatigue and recovery. I can really hammer my legs a lot more than any of the rest of my body parts. And so it honestly takes me almost a full week to feel recovered from that leg day. I might be sore for up to 5 days, struggling to walk, struggling to get up and off the couch or the toilet for about 5 days after that leg day. So there's really no room to fit in a second leg day in there. And if I tried to, it would be subpar at best. And again, something else we can look at here, if you're trying to figure out where your sweet spot is, this is really where journals come in handy, is to get that data, write down your weights, your reps and everything, and also journal how you felt during the workout. And over time, those weights or reps should be progressing. You might not progress each and every workout, but you should try to get, if I got 12 reps this week on leg press, let's try and get 13 next week. And then by the time I get 15 reps, then it's time to up the weight, go up, 25 pounds or whatever. So if you are not progressing after a month, then less may be more. If you back off a little bit, really control your recovery, you might notice that your gains will start to follow, strength will start to increase. So monitoring overall central nervous fatigue and your progression is really a big data point to follow in tracking your gains. Push-pull legs is a very popular scheme right now. I personally don't do that, but a lot of people like it. It can work great. So usually, you do push-pull legs, take a day off, push-pull legs. So you're hitting everything twice within a week. Now, if I was to do that, I would probably go down to one working set for each of these. So I would get 5 working sets on workout 1 for the week, and 5 working sets for workout 2 for the week, totaling 10 sets. Now, if you do that, you might be able to do 6 or 7 working sets per muscle group for each of those A and B workouts, totaling maybe 12 to 14 working sets total for the week. But again, journal and watch your progression with these things and see where you lie. Another popular split, which Mr. Lee Haney followed a lot, was just 2 days on, 1 day off. So, and just keeping that cycle going. So, chest, back, off, shoulders, legs, off, chest, back, off, and just repeating that. So you're hitting things a little bit more frequently. You're not quite getting everything in twice within 7 days, but you are within 8 or 9 days. Dorian typically followed the 2 on, 1 off. So Monday, Tuesday lifting, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday lifting, Saturday, Sunday off. So his was a 2 on, 1 off, 2 on, 2 off, following that cycle for the week. And kind of to caveat off what Dorian did there, something I found beneficial during my time serving in the military, being a working dad of 2 kids, and just overall when life gets busy, or if I know I have a weekend trip coming up, something you can do, but I don't recommend to follow all the time, is lifting 4 straight days. So if I know I'm going to be out of town Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the gym might be hard to find a gym, or personally I like to go camping a lot. So I might get all my lifts in Monday through Thursday, and then take Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, and then get back to the gym. But that is pretty hard on the body. Back day, leg day, squishing those closer together, those are really heavy days on the nervous system. So use that in a bind if you're a working professional or traveling. And then, if you can use those 3 off days, get in some active rest, whether it's hiking, do some cardio those days, so you're still getting movement. But that is something you can use if your schedule's getting busy. Just get all your workouts in 4 days, 3 days off, and then get back to the next week. The next thing we'd like to talk about is intensity. So again, Dorian was really big on just going all out, pouring everything into that one working set. And I was really drawn to this mindset because if you know that you only have one shot, like if you were doing long range precision shooting and you only have one bullet to hit that target, you're gonna really check that your body position, that your weapon is set up right. You're gonna be double checking your winds and where you're aiming. You're gonna just take that extra bit to make sure that you are gonna be precise and hit that with that one shot you have. And I kind of like that mentality because it really drives the focus and really ramps things up, and it makes me take that set very seriously. Because if I mess that set up, I have to wait a whole week till I can get revenge on that, till I can get a do-over. So using that intensity and just thinking like I've got 12 reps to really nail this, like I need to be locked in, I need to be focused. So I really do like that. Now, one thing I do like about how Chris Cormier trained me is with the 2 working sets, I still tried to have that focus and really pour it all into one set, then rest 2 to 3 minutes. And then I could use that second set to pick up any slack that I may have lacked in that first set. So it's almost like a finishing set, if you will. Now, one place I find that particularly helpful, if you're training alone, that second set can be very helpful. Dorian almost always had a training partner with him, and his mindset was, if you're working legs and you hit failure on that 12th rep, your training partner would then step in, and usually his saying was 4 more. Anytime you hit failure, go 4 more beyond that. With some movements like squat, it's not as safe to do that, so you just hit failure, rack it. But on leg extension, that training partner can lift the weight up to the top for you, or at least assist you up to the top, and then you can control the negative down and really finish burning out the muscle. So once you hit positive failure, because you will always hit positive failure, if I lift a barbell up to the top for you, because you can't lift it anymore, you get stuck here. If I lift it up to the top, you'll have the strength in you to be able to then lower it a few more times. You might not be able to lift it anymore, but you can lower under control. And so that's where a training partner is really helpful into getting that extra intensity out of you, is you hit failure and then get 4 more. Again, really controlling on that static hold at the top of the repetition, keeping the tension on the muscle, and then controlling that negative for 2 to 3 seconds. If you're familiar with Mike Metzner, he was really big on forced reps, controlled negatives, and static holds. But if you don't have a training partner, you're training alone, that second set, after you've rested from your first working set, can act as that stimulus that the training partner would give you if they're there. Because then you're able to do your second working set. You already are fatigued, but you're able to get a couple more reps out of you in a good set. So it's a good replacement to be able to do things safely if you are training alone. I personally train alone most of the time, so that's why I default a little bit more towards the 2 working set setup for my workouts. Another thing you can do, if you can't hit the working rep range for your second working set, you can do rest pause. So what a rest pause would be is you hit failure at 12 reps, you drop the weight, you rest maybe 10 to 20 seconds, and then do as many more as you can. That might be 3 or 4 reps. You could end it there, or you could rest again 10 to 20 seconds, rest, pause, and then get a couple more out of you. So then maybe you end up with 16 to 20 reps total for that one set. But it's all continuous, jammed into one working set. You just rest for a brief moment after you hit failure, get a couple more, rest, a couple more. The other thing you could use for intensity increasing technique is a drop set. So you could hit failure at 12, and then you immediately drop the weight anywhere from 10 to 20%, depending on the lift, maybe even up to 30%. But I found about that 20% drop range is pretty good. And then you continue your set. So, if you're lifting 100 pounds, drop it to 80, get as many more as you can. You could do a double drop set and then drop it to 60, get a couple more. It's, again, kind of shooter's preference on that. We don't want to use too many intensity increasing techniques in a single workout or on a single set, because those are increasing fatigue to your CNS. And ultimately, we are what we can recover from. So we don't want to dig a hole so deep that then we cannot refill that hole and get back to baseline and even maybe build a mound from that workout. We don't want to dig a big hole, only fill it halfway, and then it's time to work out again. And so we're never building out of that hole. So I don't recommend forced reps, rest pause, or drop sets for beginners. It's a little bit more of an intermediate to advanced technique. But those are some tools that you can use to emulate Dorian's training style. If you are training alone, if you're training with a training partner, use forced reps. Again, a good standard there is 4 more once you hit failure. And again, if you find that you're doing 2 working sets, like I've stated, but you're not progressing, then maybe back off, maybe do 1. Dorian did 2 working sets up through, I think, 1991 or maybe 92, and then he had some discussions with Mike Metzner, and that's when he decided to decrease down to just 1 working set, and he was able to continue to grow and increase his strength and size and continue his Olympia reign all the way up to 1997. There could be some potential injury risk because you are able to lift heavier, pouring everything into 1 set. So you need to be using good control and form with everything you're doing. Dorian did have some injuries, so if you are afraid of that or don't want to be at risk of that, stimulating, not annihilating, could be a good option for you. Still getting a really good workout in, still getting enough stimulus to start muscle growth, protein synthesis, all those things, but not going quite as hard into the wall as Dorian was. They both work. I mean, there's always the volume versus heavy duty debate is pretty big nowadays. Arnold versus Mike Metzner. I think Dr. Mike Israetel said it best. Probably somewhere in between the two is really the best sweet spot. Not doing hundreds of reps per week, but also not only doing 6 reps per week on the Mike Metzner side of things. But everyone's different. Everyone enjoys different things. Stanton Efferding says the best exercise is the one you'll do, the one you can be consistent with over time, and that you can progress. So again, it comes back to tracking and progress. Track your workouts, take that data down, see how you're feeling, and you can adjust and tweak things from there. You don't have to take what I'm saying or what anyone else in the industry is saying to heart and this is a dogmatic approach. There's only one way to do it. Ultimately, just track things and then plug and play from there. I also don't think you don't need to be switching up your leg day every month, every 2 months. You can do, a lot of these guys did the exact same workouts, the exact same exercises for years on end, just continuing to master the movements. So I don't think there's much to the novelty of constant or muscle confusion. You'll hear people say, constantly changing up the exercises they choose. Really try and master something. But then again, if something doesn't feel right, if you're having a hard time targeting it, if you've at least put some good effort into studying the movement, maybe reached out to some people that have it, let's say you're struggling with your back, go find someone who's got a really good back in the gym, talk to them, get some pointers. You could go get some electric stim therapy, where they attach the electrodes onto your back with a Newbie or a Nexus Neuro machine and help wake up the mind-muscle connection. Try a couple of those things first before you just start yanking out exercises simply because you don't enjoy them. Give it a good effort, try and learn it, and then if you need to swap things out from there, go ahead and do so. I think that pretty much covers everything I have to talk about this today. In the future, we'll do a blueprint for chest, we'll do blueprint for shoulders, back, and also arms, and then we'll get into some more techniques we can use and other exercise preferences, and later on we'll touch into diet. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for tuning in today, and I hope this was helpful.